eyes.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I just had to adjust something. Go ahead.
Okay, hang on. Let me. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I lost you there for a second. But anyway, and the sadness interprets to me. It goes up through the ages, and there's been times when I was young, being raised on a footbrother reservation, where I seen that sadness in my folks' eyes. You know, not being able to do what they want to do because the government wouldn't let them. They wouldn't let them turn out cows, for example, in certain pastures. They wouldn't let them, you know, maybe get leases because they were having a bad day. I'm talking about the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and so there was sadness there. So I think that sadness still touches upon us, that Curtis documented by his pictures.
So, you know, everyone at that time, all these white people like Curtis and Theodore Roosevelt and Grinnell and almost everybody talked about the vanishing Indian, that the Indian was going to vanish. Well, of course, they didn't vanish. They just regrouped, right? I mean, do you object to that kind of idea that everyone had a kind of romantic idea that the Indians were gone, were leaving?
Well, I think the romantic idea can go farther. The romantic idea that I saw when I heard the word vanishing is almost that cinematic thing you see with the Indians and the cowboys riding off into the west and the sun going down and the end of an era. You know, it was a hell of a lot rougher than that as far as I'm concerned. It was, you know, there was a vanishing. There was, because it was illegal for us to do ceremonies. It was illegal for us to dance. It was illegal for us to sing. It was illegal for us to do a lot of things, including even they give us names. You know, they took away our Indian names and they gave us English names. And so I agree in certain ways that yes, we were vanishing from that aspect, you know, but there's a real bitterness to that vanishing that people, I believe, do not either see or do not feel. And maybe I'm hoping some of these pictures, maybe if somebody can sit there and think about that, okay, what really happened? What was going on at this time period? Even with Theodore Roosevelt coming in. And because Theodore Roosevelt, of course, did a lot for this country. We know that. He saved a lot of good land. But at the same time, he was, again, at that time period when we were losing things, when we were being outlawed. And even Theodore Roosevelt, in some of his quotes, didn't have good things to say about us sometimes. But again, you have to understand, I think, in a way, it was that time period. It was that time period. America was changing. America was growing, I guess, as we can say. But again, they were growing by stealing our land. They were growing by putting us on reservations. They were growing by trying to get rid of us because we were in the way. And that was very evident on the East Coast coming in. That was even with the tribes such as Chickasaws and the Choctaws and some of those. And it was evident here on the Northern Plains. And because again, we're losing our land, going to reservations, making us eat forced food. We start losing our gardens, you know, and so there's a heck of a lot of changes that were occurring when Roosevelt and Curtis and all those folks, even Grinnell, all those folks were around. You know, our culture was changing, even in America. You know, I think the general Americans, I'm going to say white guys, were probably thinking, well, we need that land and they're just in the way. You know, I want to graze it, I want to farm it, I want to whatever. But the first thing we got to do is put those guys out of the way, and they did. So to me, that was happening big time at that in our lifetime at that time.
So, yeah, there's so much to talk about here. So I want to show it. Maybe we should go to some of the pictures. Would that be useful?
Yeah, that'd be fine. You betcha.
Let me go to those because I just think that really helps. So can you see that?
Yes, I can. Okay.
So, I mean, just look at that face.
Yeah. I mean, there's to me, it's you know, what's there obviously is the old people. I mean, that represents that generation, and represents the history of him, with the face, with the clay that he has on his forehead, and used for medicines. You know, it's just, I mean, look at his eyes. And the eyes say so much about him. The eyes, like I said before, say a stubbornness about him. But also I think the eyes are almost knowing what's going to happen to the future, what's going to happen to this person's great great grandsons and great great granddaughters and so forth. And I think he sees the future, and I think at that time they all did, but he still has enough on him to represent his time period.
You see sadness and a sense of loss. I also see like extraordinary pride.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and that's what I said before. I mean, there's so much emotions that go into this. It's not a singular picture. These pictures represent a host of emotions, and I guess each individual will bring out what emotion brings out the best in him, or the most in him, if you will. There's some days I'll look at this and I'll say, yeah, he's full of pride, boy. He's a warrior. We're not going to step down. We're going to go for it. And then you go back to the realization of what really happened, and that kind of brings you back to your base again, which is the base was we were losing. And I hate to keep saying it that way, but it really was. There was really activity happening, and I think Curtis, through pictures like this, did capture some of that lost pride, or the pride they had, and again, but what's his eyes really looking at?
Now, in 1908, when this was done, or 1907, right in there somewhere, this man did not dress like this every day.
Right.
This is important ceremonial clothing, right?
Right. Yep. It looks like it. Yeah. Well, it also looks like our everyday shirt too. If of course he's got a lot of beadwork and no porcupine pills on that thing. And so I would imagine then he's got a robe over him too. So I would imagine that is he's dressed up for this. They asked him to get dressed up for this, maybe. Or maybe he caught him at a ceremony. But again, those ceremonies were being outlawed. So,
but if it's just like a regular person, if it's just like Bill Smith or Judy Smith, the clay on the face, that's a special thing, right? That you adorn yourself in this way.
Yeah, you would use that for ceremonies. They use that for fasting. They use that for general prayers, for a lot of things. You would only use that at certain times. And so again, that's where it's a little bit, I'm not going to say confusing, but it's interesting, because a lot of those old guys would not put that on unless they were actually doing something. They wouldn't just put it on for this guy's camera. Okay, they were actually doing something, or maybe through Grinnell, he caught him in a real good situation where they were going to start a program or ceremony, and got these guys to go with it that way. It's surprising. The thing that I'm surprised about with these also is the fact that a lot of these folks in the really old days, if you look at the painters, Bodmer, Catlin, some of those, when they painted, they would close their eyes because they didn't want their souls to get captured. Even in the early pictures, about I'm going to say 1915 or so, you look at some of the pictures of that day, a lot of the Indians had their eyes closed. Granted, it took a long time to take a picture. It wasn't just a snap. It was 10 minutes or whatever it took. But at the same time, so the good news for these is that their eyes are open. And I don't think people understand that. Their eyes are open, and they're willing to sit there and be defiant, if you will.
Let's go to the next one here.
Okay.
I love this one. This is one of my very favorite Curtis pictures. I think this is a man crying to the spirits.
Right.
What do you make of it?
I do the same thing. I like it. I think they need to explain what that means, crying to the spirits, because a lot of people who are going to view this will not see what do they mean by that. I mean, is it just a saying? No, I mean, they actually cry when you pray. You let all your emotions out in some of these. And this particular picture here is incredible, just incredible, because it shows to me anyway, it shows not only him in a sense of freedom, but also the earth in a sense of freedom. it shows the plains, and I'm assuming that's the plains, or at least it looks like the plains to me.
It is.
And yeah, and it shows that it shows the openness. There's no fences, there's no houses, there's nothing that can be a containment for anything or anybody. And so it gives him, he's standing up exceptionally straight and proud, and not looking down, not looking up, but looking in front of him, looking at the future. That's what I see in this one, with hope, with hope.
What's
you
he?
know?
So first of all, if I came to you tomorrow with a camera and I said, Gerard, I want you to dress in a buffalo robe and lean forward, and you might say, no way, man, I'm not doing that. I mean, that
Right.
you're gonna want to, right? I mean, you could reject that, right?
Right, I can, but I don't think, to me, Curtis would go there and say, I would like to take a picture of you, maybe through an interpreter, obviously. And not to say, okay, when you stand there, look proud, or look this way, or look that way. I think he just took the picture and captured the man, captured the moment, captured the spirit of that. And that's what's unique about these. This guy here, I mean, this is, and again, here comes the emotion. The emotion can be positive. It can be a lonesome emotion with this. It can be looking to the future or looking to the past to see what he lost. And so that has, but again, the crying is he's not actually showing the crying, because what he's showing is the praying. And it's
the crying is not just it's not just a cliche. You're saying that it's an actual appeal.
It's an actual appeal, because when when they always say that when I talk about I'm talking about the elders that I learned from, especially, is that when you cry, when you pray to the Creator and to the spirits, we're like children. And because we're like children, when a child needs something, what does it do? A child cries. A child cries for water, a child cries for food, a child cries for his diaper to be changed, a child cries for the loneliness, it cries for loving, it cries for all that. And so when we pray, when you pray sincerely, that emotion comes out, because you're praying and you're asking the Creator and the Creator's spirits to come and help you, and to help your family, and to help your tribe, or to help the earth, and so forth. And so that's what that crying is.
It's always struck me as a little strange that white people pray inside closed buildings, but here he is praying out in the world.
Well, not only that, but white people only pray one day a week, as far as I'm concerned. That's on Sunday. Then they go back to raising hell on Monday. And we're outside. It's wide open, so we can do it all the time. But anyway, but yeah, you're right. I mean, and so much of our lives were started by prayer. Back in those days, because of the incredible respect we had for the Creator and all of his creations, including the spirits, we had so much respect for that we really were one with the earth at that time. And I think that's what this shows too, that you can see his obviously he's standing on Mother Earth, and it's just he's one with it. That's what's so unique about this.
Here's a man named Good Bear Hidadza.
Yeah, I'm good friends with his probably great grandson.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Good Bears are Good Bears back home.
Will the Good Bears know of this photograph?
Oh, I'm sure they would. Yeah, I'm sure they would. Yeah, Harley Good Bear would know about that. He's in D.C., I believe, last time I heard. But yeah, and he even looks like he resembles, or they resemble him in today's world. And I'm trying to think. He must have belonged to one of the societies, because of that, his headgear. But I'm not sure which one it is. But again, if you look at his shirt again, it's, I really believe at that time, they were making that transition, and I'm almost willing to believe that these guys were probably dressed that way quite a bit. They weren't really putting on denim pants and denim shirts, and they were dressed like this. That was their style. That was their way of life. And so, and they would have had regular shirts on, or regular buckskin shirts. Then when they said, well, we're going to take a picture, maybe his wife would say, hey, get something good on, and they would wear their ceremonial shirts. I don't know.
I see both quill work and beadwork there.
Yeah, you got that thing in front, that's pretty typical Mandan Hiladza, and that little piece. And so most of it's quill work, which is a lot of good quillers back in those days, obviously. But,
And
but again,
what kind of feathers would those have been, do you think?
those looks like to me that they're eagle feathers. I can't see the tops. The tops don't show. I'm not sure if they're split or if they have any kind of markings on them or what. And I haven't seen that. Another confusing thing I have, or a confusing I have for this is that a lot of our people really didn't have feathers like that in the back of their heads, and so I in a way I kind of suspect that was put on there by Curtis. I'm not sure, but a lot of us didn't have that. A lot of us didn't have those kind of feathers. That's kind of a Hollywood style, but I could be completely wrong. I mean, there is some that have, maybe they have that medicine that indicates that.
Yeah, I think some of these, like he has a photograph of a leader out at Crater Lake wearing a full headdress,
Yeah.
like a Hollywood headdress, and you kind of think, that's probably not fully authentic. But I mean, not just any Hidatsa gets to wear eagle feathers, right? That's a privilege.
Yeah, it's a privilege, and also depends. That's why I say it depends on your society how they were cut on the tops. If you had plumes, plumes are pretty new, if you will. They never had plumes like that back in the old days too much. But obviously, he like I said, he must have belonged to some kind of society, even with his, and the short hair is interesting, because I don't think that's his hair coming up in the braid. I think that's part of his headgear.
I do too. That's a white man's scarf. I mean,
yes.
It's well worn, and his eyes he's looking slightly off.
Yeah, he's not looking into the camera. He's not giving that, and to me that would be saying that he's not giving himself or his spirit to the camera, but he's looking away.
Do you know what I don't know how good your Hidatsa is. What's good bear in Hidatsa? Do you know?
Good bear in Hidatsa would be Nachpatsi Zagit's good bear. So that would be.
Oh, wonderful. All right, this is someone by the river.
Yeah.
It's called He Perceived an Earthen Vessel.
Well, I think to me, I got that here. What that is he received the earthen vessel, then they had something to do with the his family maybe had the right to make a certain kind of pot with a certain designs, with a certain emphasis on the rims or whatever. And maybe he is just now taking it when it's done to get it, to put it in the water, to get it to wash it or whatever, but just that he perceives an earthen vessel, to me, that even says that Curtis knew something that we don't in this particular picture, which means that, again, I go back to that vessel, certain ones had the right to make those. And there were family designs, there were individual designs that a young girl could come and buy from her grandmother or her mother or somebody else in her relatives to make that design. And so to me, that's what that's about, is making of those, because again, remember, we were pretty much the only ones up here that made pots, the Mandans and Hiradzas, and we have those, I have pots by my place that I find out here, because again, this was part of our territory, and so that's evident over here. But to me, that's what that is.
Yeah, so what we're doing, like 200 years after, 100 and some years after the fact, is I'm asking you to bring your wisdom to bear on this. As you just said, there's so much that's missing. We'd love to know this backstory, wouldn't we?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much, again. There's what's missing is how he got this pot, because the pots were not owned by the men. The pots were owned and utilized by the women. And so this is interesting. I find that really interesting. And again, I've never heard about, did a man, after a pot was made, did he go down and pray with it at the water? The water, and in this case, I'm not sure what river this is, But it's a body of water that has spiritual value to them, obviously. And is he cleaning it? Is he doing something? I don't know. You know, there's so much hidden.
So, and I don't think that's the Missouri. That might be the knife, but not
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at that thing way in the bag. It looks like a granary, but I don't think it is.
No, I think that's just a kind of a fuzzy tree.
Yeah, I think it is too.
I just love this Hidatsa
Yes.
boat.
Yes.
We don't know where this is, but both of us know more or less where this is.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's not buffalo, right? It's not buffalo.
What is
It's
it?
cow. It's beef. It's a cow. Look at it once.
So this is transitional.
Yes. Yes. And again, it's that time period. It's that time period. We're making a big move, either negative or positive, but we're making a move. And that's what this shows. You know, it also answers questions. There was a lot of questions in the past about how did they make their buffalo or their bull bolts? Did they put the hair inside, the hair outside? There's a lot of argument. Well, this proves it, that the hair was outside. And in my life, I got to make 4 of these.
Really?
That actually worked. Yes, we actually put them on a knife river, and
they didn't sink.
They didn't sink, even with me in it. And so I got to make so I understand how these are made. And again, this little picture will tell a lot, because the bull boats, a lot of cases were made by the women, but if they were on, the men would make them also if they were hunting or on warfare to get across the large body of water, no problem. But if they were made good, for example, if they were made by the women, each buffalo bull boat would take 4 days to make. They just wouldn't make it in the afternoon. It would take 4 days, because you got to get your willows, you got to strip them, you got to circle them. I mean, there's a lot of things to this. And again, looking at that, to me, it looks like, again, I've seen bull boats before, but to me, this does not look like a buffalo. And so again, the transition and how many did they make of those in Independence, for example, in the Independence days, you know, and I've seen some when I was young made out of cow like this.
Yeah, that's a great point. Where would the Hidatsa been living in 1908?
They would have been in Fishhook Village.
Still there.
Still there, yeah, getting out of there. No, they would not, yeah, which means they'd be at the old Fort Berthold, the original Fort Berthold.
So this is probably on the shore of Sakakawea now, if we could figure out where it is.
Yeah, I think it is. It could be any place over there, but I look at way back there, you can see the hills, you know, and that to me, that would be on the, I'm willing to bet that we're on the east side of the river. I'm willing to bet.
We're on the east side of the river. I think we're looking west or northwest here.
Northwest, yeah. Yeah, because those, you can see the big cottonwood trees on the bottom lands.
Yeah, it's beautiful, really a beautiful photograph.
It is.
This is, it just says Hidatsa man.
Yeah.
He's wearing a blanket that is it's a traded or purchased, right?
It's a trade. I would think at that time it'd probably still be a trade blanket that he would have in his family or whatever, you know. And well, let's start with the head. You go down, that says a lot, because they have the little, I think it's called the pompadour, in front of his head, that the hair that comes out, that they use that, and that indicates a couple things. It indicates that yes, he has been in warfare, and he either touched an enemy or he killed an enemy. When they have that, that's the pompadour, and you can see his feather. See how that's what I was talking about with the cut.
Yeah,
there's a cut in that feather, you know, and that means something. I mean, it could mean a ton of different things. It could mean, again, that he tested his enemy. It could mean that he stole a horse, which was still happening back in those days, and it could mean that he was a true warrior from a society. If you look at his braid on his left side, you look like there's an ermine on it.
He's got it wrapped, doesn't he?
Got it wrapped, yeah. And so that may be one of his medicines. That may be one of his helpers, his ermines, you know. And then of course the trade blankets, and you look at his leggings are also trade, that looks like they're beat it to me. But that gives that now to me, that's transitional. to me, that's going from the old buckskin days to these modern days, if you will. Modern days for them would be the new trade blankets.
Do you really get the sense of the Great Plains in this photograph?
No question. And looks like they had good rain too, by the way. They got grass even, you know. And so this, to me, this is outside of the village. If you go on top of the hills, the bluffs around the village, you'll see some of these types of plateaus and the hills in the background. To me, that's where that's at. So you took him up there someplace.
So it looks like so Curtis found him, lined him up to take a photograph, probably said, dress as you wish. This man seems proud of this transitional clothing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I think, well, it was the clothing made sense. I mean, a lot of things, they made sense. You know, when I first started out years and years and years ago, I would think, wonder why they went to Pales. Why did they leave their Indian stuff behind and take the white man stuff? Well, hell, it was a heck of a lot easier. It was a lot easier to get that in. And we human beings are all about convenience. You know, I don't care what color we are. We're all about convenience. And so this would have been an active trade. It would have been very active if they had, of course, the trading forts there, which were still around. Of course, the trading forts back in those days, they were stealing a lot of the stuff and selling them to the people in Fort Totten, for example. You know, the traders there, not the Indians, but the traders. And so they were hard to get by too. But he's successful. Look at his face. He's still, you know, I'm trying to see if he has paint on his face.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? That's just a shadow?
Hard to tell, but I think that's just a bright spot on his forehead.
Okay. On his
but
nose.
he looks like he's about 60 to me.
Yeah, he looks about that. He's in very good shape. These guys are very good shape, very thin. Face is very worn, been outside all of his life working, you know, that type of thing. So, but he's really good. It's interesting that has his hands inside the blankets.
Yeah, what's that about?
I don't know. I've seen another one. Most of them have at least one outside, and I think to me, if he does that, that's kind of a pose. You know, they you know, put your hands in there or show the blanket or something. You know, make him. I don't know why he would do that, but that's what I couldn't tell you why that is.
There's probably a historian of materials who could tell us where that blanket came from, but I don't know anything about that.
Oh, I bet they could. Yeah, I bet Horse Capture's boy could do that. There's a Horse Capture boy, that George Jr. could probably do that.
Where does he live?
He works out of DC, I believe now. Still there yet. We have a new at our interpretive center at Fort Berthold. We have Michael Bartholomew, who also is very good at this stuff. And he just got his master's out of University of New Mexico, and he's working there now. So he would do that. He could do that.
I love God's mother. Look at this beautiful photograph.
I love this one. I love this one. This says grandma. That's what this says. Or in our language is Magoo. Magoo is grandma. And that little, I mean, it's just, I mean, to me, this is family. To me, this is family. You know, and I see this little boy, and even though he's scared of the camera, you can see it in his eyes. You can see it in his face. He's got a little wrinkled forehead that he's worried about it. But look at her. Look at her. She's just, you know, to me, she's in a way pretty stable. I'm not sure if I can say she's happy or sad, but I'm just going to say, look at her face. She's pretty stable.
She's strong.
Oh, extremely strong. And they were still doing, obviously, they still did a lot of the work yet, as far as butchering and as far as tanning hides, even yet back in those days, making their foods and that kind of stuff. And if you see some of the hammerstones that these ladies would have used, boy, I wouldn't mess with them. You know, they had to be stronger than hell, and they had to be, you know, and just looking back at my mother and looking back at my clan grandmothers, this is how they looked. You didn't mess with them. You did not mess with them. You know, they were not only strong, they're extremely intelligent. You know, this says another term to me, and this extremely, this tells it, which is the term matrilineal.
Mhm.
And to me, this is what this picture says. We are matrilineal, which means that we are the boss. And that's what she says. I mean, you don't cross this lady. And the interesting thing is, look at her shawl. Her shawl, obviously, she's got probably a buckskin dress. She's got, it looks like the women's chest plate in front of her that goes probably a long ways down.
What's that plate made of?
A bone. Usually it's eagle bone and blue heron, and probably those two most likely would be the most of this bone made out of. But
Well, she's
again,
got a white man's shawl here, but she's probably changed it somewhat.
yeah, well, I don't think she's changed it. I think they brought him in that way to trade with us.
Okay.
And so they haven't changed anything. I think that's the way it is, but it's interesting how that baby is set, right? It's set pretty high up on her shoulders. If you had a cradle board, it would probably even a little bit higher, but you can see that baby is comfortable and used to it, and very used to it. And my mom did that once to one of my children, one of her granddaughters. She did that. It was just amazing how that baby took to it, even in today's world. My mom was still alive. She did that. And his little hand is out. I'm not sure if does he got something?
Can't tell. I can't tell what that is below, and maybe
Yeah.
that's part of her.
Could be part of her shawl.
Yeah.
Could be part of her shawl.
So Gerard, if I put 1,000 photographs of Native women in front of you, would you recognize her as automatically Hidatsa?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah.
Why? Why?
The shape face. We're strong. We have wide cheekbones. The mouth, the way they have their mouths, I think, in a way. And interesting here that at this point in time they have no paint on them. But I would recognize her as the Hidatsa or Mandan.
At that time, so around 1910, how much blending was there of the two cultures?
A lot.
Mandan and Hidatsa.
Oh, a lot. Remember, we start blending after 1781. That's when and the reason we blended, and that's what this is a good point. Reason we blended is because we start losing. We start losing our cultures because of the 1781 smallpox. And so we understood that we either had to blend or we would lose them completely. And so we did blend. And of course, by the time 1837 rolled around, we had to reblend again. And so by the time I think Curtis came in there, I'm going to say 1890s, 1900s, we already hit our peak, I believe, and we were going downhill as cultural people. And so this again is she's still proud. She's still proud. She's still an Earth Lodge lady, even though she probably lives in a log house now.
I'd give anything to know what happened. So this boy, he's about 3 maybe. This would be 1908 or so. So if he lived to be 70, let's hope, he lived a long life into your own lifetime.
Right.
I wonder if it'd be fun to identify these people.
It really would. And I can remember growing up on the res. One time my dad got a little bitty job, and that was to take commodities around to the people. The government hired him because we're the only one. Well, we had a good pickup, I think, is what happened. Anyway, and so we could, and I would go with my dad, and we would see all these old folks just like this lady. And I would be amazed by them, and I would never talk to them because as young kids, we couldn't talk to them. We had to just sit there and behave ourselves. And I remember my dad would talk to them, and some of the ones that some of the ones that were they couldn't hear, maybe they were deaf, he would use sign language. And so I got to know a little bit of sign language, and I'm sure, and these old ladies would just, it was amazing what these old ladies brought out in us males.
What do you mean?
Well, because and I'll give you an example. My dad, for example, he was a tough man. My dad was a tough guy. He was a rancher. He broke horses. He was rougher than hell. He's in the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame, and that kind of stuff. So he was a rough guy. But when I see him go around ladies like this, he would turn into a real young gentleman. And that used to really astonish me. He used to, because you never supposed to look at women in the eyes back in those days. You couldn't stare at them in the eyes, and because you had to have respect for them. And by staring them in the eyes or staring them in the full face, that means you didn't respect them. So you had to look down or look to the side. And depending on who they were, we had regulations back in those days, and we still do to a certain extent, but not very much, as to who you could talk to and who you couldn't talk to, who you could tease and who you couldn't tease. And if it was a grandma, she could tease you and you could tease her. If it was a mother-in-law, you couldn't even look at her, which is a damn good thing, by the way. Anyway, and so he had a lot of respect for them, and that's what this woman portrays. She portrays that respect. You look at her. I mean, she's proud. She's this is my child. This is my life. This is my, this is who I am, type of thing. And it's just that look. And again, because we're matrilineal, we would really respect our women. Really respect them.
Yeah, she looks, I mean, she kind of scares me. She could knock a guy like me down with one hand.
Yeah, both of us together, buddy. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To me, how about this woman?
This is, I think she's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think she's beautiful. I think she's probably 30, 40, maybe late 30s, early 40s, something like that. She's really got her shells together, that she's wore it again, and most of those being traded. And that's her outfit. You can see. I mean, she's comfortable in it. And again, then to me, that looks like one of my relatives. I have no idea who that is, but it looks like one of my relatives when I was younger.
Yeah, look at, I mean, how many hours did that dress take?
Well, I would have took a long, yeah, and that would have been made either by her relatives or again, they would trade for some of those too. We would trade, for example, the Blackfeet would have a lot of those type of ornaments, and I know on their dresses, and sewed into it. And so I know a lot of times we would trade with the Blackfeet for that kind of stuff too. And so, but if you look at her face again, her face is showing I think her life, which has been rough. I mean, she's got wrinkles. She looks a little bit on the tough side too. I'm not talking negatively either. I'm talking positively tough. But she looks like a young woman that is still doing her job.
She's beautiful. She's a beautiful woman.
Oh, I think she's absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
So
another thing you notice on there also is that unlike you and I, she doesn't have white hair.
It didn't turn.
Yeah, she doesn't have white hair, and that was very common among the Herads, especially. My mother who passed away when she was 93, I believe it was. She never had white hair until her last year. That's because she had cancer. And whereas my dad, who was primarily Mandan, he had white hair since he was a kid, just like me. I had white hair since I was 5 years of age. So that shows the Herads in her right there. A little bit of white looks like on top of her head, but other than that, she's pure black hair.
And that was one of the things that white people got wrong, right? They saw these lighter haired Mandan and thought, oh, they must be partly white.
Well, that's where that theory comes in of what was the guy's name coming in the early days? It escapes me, Clay.
Well, there was, who was the guy who came to the Mandan in 1795?
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, he thought they were maybe the Welsh or.
Right, there we go, the Welsh, yeah, because that's the theory. And I know he talked about that, but no, there was, the reason the Mandans, for example, had white hair and blonde hair and that type of thing is because of the baby caves. They say that when we're in there, and there's a baby cave, actually by Dickinson, North Dakota. There's a baby cave, two of them towards Stanton. One of them is by Washburn. And
what are they?
What baby caves are is we believe that's where the spirit babies are living before they're born. And they're all in this cave. And actually the cave it's a hill. It's a clay hill, right by the river. And inside the baby cave is supposed to look like the inside of an earth lodge, but the fortification ditch is inside the earth lodge in this case. And the ones who take care of this, and this is very important, the ones who take care of the babies are Marudachka and Magu. They are grandpa and grandma. Not mom and dad, it's grandpa and grandma. That's why our grandparents were so important to us. And they say that when a woman gets married and wants to have a child, she'll go to these baby caves and she'll take an offering there and pray and leave that offering outside the baby cave. There's actually a cave in these buttes. And my grandpa Joe Youngbird, my mother's father, when he was young, he used to tell my older brother, he said that when they would go hunting, or he heard that when he went in the warpath, the men would go by these baby caves. That's where they would pray for success, because the baby caves were very, very spiritual, very strong. Well, the grandfather and the grandmother would take the babies out mainly about 2 times a day, in the morning and the evening, so they could go play. And what they would do is, to get across the fortification ditches, the grandpa would put a cottonwood log, and the babies would have to walk across that log or crawl and go outside, and that's what they would play. Because my grandpa used to say to my older brother and the other ones, I never knew my grandpa, he passed away, but he would say to them is that when they go there, they would see all these little moccasin prints or little baby prints all around playing. Now, when a woman is going to have her baby, the man or the grandpa and the grandma would select who that baby was. Maybe the woman would come there and she'd pray for a girl or pray for a boy. So that's what they would send out. Now, I'm not sure.
Already existed in a physical form.
Spirits, no, this is spirits.
Spirits, okay.
It's the spirits inside the baby cave. Those are spirits.
But they could play and crawl over those.
They're babies. They're baby spirits. They're babies. They're having a good time. And so when a woman gets ready to have her child, and if they choose it to be a boy, they would stick a little baby boy on that cottonwood log, and the baby doesn't want to go. They got everything there. They got love, they got food, they got companionship, they got everything there. And so a lot of times the grandpa and the grandma would have to actually physically push that baby to have it be born. And so a lot of times when our babies come out of the mother, they have bruises on their backs because sometimes because even his moccasin feet, he'd have to push it by his butt. Or maybe by one of my youngest daughter had bruises all up and down her back, and I still tell people, boy, she really didn't want to come out of there. They had to push the hell out of her in there. So when the baby comes through, when it comes out of the spiritual earth lodge, if you will, that's when the baby comes out of the mother physically.
Have you ever been to one of these baby caves?
I know where one is. I thought Alfred Bowers took me to one. And the one by Washburn. The other ones are gone. I think there's still one by Dickinson. I think I know where. I have never been to that one, and you could see it from Rainy Butte.
Really?
Yeah. That's as far as I'll go with that one.
I don't know. Of course. So I mean, I feel like this woman might kill me, but this woman, I might be able to deal with this woman.
Yeah. But anyway, so when they come out.
Oh, sorry.
When they come out and then the baby is born, our people, we didn't name them, sometimes for 4 days, sometimes for 10 days. And we had an active reclamation program at that time. If the baby were to die within those 4 days or within those 10 days, in some cases, we would never name those children. And if they would die before they were named, all they would do is take the baby, stick it in a tree and give it a tree burial and not mourn it, not mourn it. But if a baby were to live beyond 4 days, beyond 10 days, and it was named by their father's side, then it died, then we would mourn it like a human being, and so that's very important. And I think the important thing here is to get the understanding of how important the grandfather and the grandmother were. And they also say too that the baby isn't just cut off from this baby cave. You notice that all the babies have soft spots in their heads. And when they're first born, they make noises and they do this and they do that when they're first born. And people always say, oh, they're exercising their lungs, they're exercising their vocal cords or whatever. They're not doing that. What they're doing is they're still talking to the grandpa and the grandma in that. When that closes up, then they lose communication with the grandpa and the grandma. Then they start speaking whatever language you speak. And so those are our baby caves, and that's what's very important.
That's beautiful. This is a lovely. Holds the eagle.
Holds the eagle. Hold that. Yeah. Holds. That would be. I think his relative used to be a cop back home.
Back on the reservation.
On the reservation when I was young, but boy, this is interesting because I believe he's got. To me, those look like Plains grizzly. That claw.
These claws here.
Yeah, right there, those ones. I don't think
they do.
Yeah, but they look like Plains grizzly to me.
So that again is something that you have to earn, right?
Right. Oh, definitely. Yeah, you earn it different ways, and again, but you can see the. How would I explain that? You can see the manliness in his look, in his face. Look how strong that sucker was. I mean, I wouldn't want to meet him if he was mad either.
He looks sad to me, though. He looks very sad.
He does, yeah. If you look at it, that's one of the ones that you look at his eyes, and this is the one I used to look at his eyes and see a lot of bad things, see a lot of sadness in this guy. It's interesting too, his earrings with the two little eyes in them.
What are those earrings?
Those are just decoration for him. But I see sometimes they put little eyes in there to help him look, help him see.
What would they be made of? Do you know? Is that shell?
Bone. Yeah, it'd be bone. Yeah, those are bone there, the way it looks there. They're not shell.
Here's another photograph I really love.
Yes.
Home of the water monster. What does that mean?
Okay, the water monster is we had during the time of creation, and our creation didn't start in Russia or didn't start over there. Our creation started here. Our creation started, in fact, one of them, we have different ways, because let me start over. You have to understand that we had 3 different sub-tribes within the Hidatsa and 2 sub-tribes within the Mandans. Each one have a different creation. Each one, in some cases, years ago, having different clans and societies. And so most of them had heroes, if you will, the cultural heroes. For example, the old lady who never dies. The old lady who never dies is the one that helped us start our gardens, our corn gardens. And she was married to her husband was the snake in the river sometimes. And again, there's a lot of stories that talk about different elements, that talk about different characteristics, talk about different characters, and one of them being the water monsters. We have stories of Long Arm. That's another sub-tribe. Long Arm came down from the sky and landed and burnt Arrow Creek by Washburn. And that's where he started the 13 villages of the Hidatsa, because he came down as an arrow. That was that flaming arrow site. And when he landed so hard and so deep, he called for the rain to come. And the rain softened the earth out so he could get out. Well, because he was there, because he took the form of an arrow, he organized and developed and created 13 villages, because there's 13 parts of that arrow. And so each one of those had stories. We had stories of during the time of creation, there was a lot of so-called and this is a white man's term, monsters. You know, evil things that try to stop the good. But again, we had, for example, we had Lodge Boy and Spring Boy who would kill a lot of these monsters, and that happened right around Knife River, where Knife River is right now. That portion of the river, from there all the way down to where Bismarck is. You know, but her husband, the old lady never died's husband, was a snake that lived in the river. But again, there's other ones too. There's other creations, other creatures, if you will, and what they call monsters.
Yeah, I think this has to be the Knife River, but can't be sure.
Or the Heart.
Could be the Heart.
Yeah.
I don't know how far, when Curtis came, he came with a guy named Alexander Upshaw. Do you know that name?
Yeah.
What do you know about him?
Not much at all. Just that he came and was helping out with the interpretation, helping out with the tribes. I had never really researched him that much, but I know he helped him out a lot. So other than that, I have no idea.
This is kind of a digression, Gerard, but I need your help on this. I want to find out if there are people on the Crow Reservation who are still Upshaws, because this Upshaw is a fascinating guy. He was taken to Carlisle, where he was turned into a white man's Indian,
right?
And really thoroughly. And then he came back as kind of a go-between between the Crow and the world of Billings. He became Curtis's #1 liaison, and really opened all the doors for Curtis, both in Montana and here. And then he married a white woman, and because of that, he was beaten to death on the streets of Billings.
Yeah.
It's a horrible, horrible, horrible story. I guess it's not that unique, but it's a horrible story.
Yes, it is. You betcha. You know, the ones, if you want to look more into that, I believe, do you know Tim McCleary?
No.
Okay, you might want to visit Tim McCleary. He was my historian when I was a superintendent at Fort Union. Oh, I'm sorry, at Little Bighorn.
And where does he live?
He's the historian for the Crow tribe. He lives in Hardin.
So if I contact him and say we talked.
Yes. Definitely. He'll help you out.
Hardin, Montana. Tim McCleary. Okay.
Tim McCleary in Hardin, Montana. Yeah.
So I don't know, but my point about the river here is we don't know how far they've traveled. I'm sure they went to like a Fishhook Village, of course, and to Fort Berthold.
Yes.
But whether they got to the Heart during that time, I don't know.
I don't think they did, Clay. I don't think they got that far. Yeah. So I would imagine this is probably the Knife River at I'm going to say low tide.
Sure looks like the Knife where I've seen it up there near its confluence.
Yeah, you betcha. Sorry, but
all right. You got to take that call.
Yeah, hang on a second. I think my wife's got it. Yeah, she's got it. Okay.
This is Crow, Absaroka, hoop on the forehead. I love this photograph too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and they really got that in the middle there. But again, I want to say this too. The way they say it is Absaloka.
Absaloka.
Yeah, that's how they say it.
Absaloka.
Absaloka. Yeah.
Absaloka. So it basically, doesn't Absaloka mean something like raven?
Absaloka means the beak of the long beak bird, and Pretty on Top, who passed away with COVID, unfortunately. Pretty on Top told me that Absaloka is the part, just that part that comes from the feathers to the beak, right there. That's Absaloka. And then the French or whoever took it and bastardized it.
This is another one of my favorite photographs.
I love this. Yes.
So what's going on here?
Well used. But unfortunately, to me, it looks like it's abandoned because the canvas, again, canvas teepee is not straight. It's not taut.
Sagging.
There's sagging in there. And they wouldn't allow that. It would have been so maybe it's a camp. Maybe it's well used though, because look at all the smoke stains. It's amazing. And it's amazing to me because the tops of the poles almost look like they're bunched in a different way that I would have put a teepee up. Because the Crows would put up a 4-style teepee just like us Hidazes, because they were part of us at one time.
Right.
And so they would do a quadrupod teepee rather than a tripod. And so this should be a quadrupod, if that's what this is, isn't it? in the forest. And to me, it's on the river bottom.
Now, when we think of the Haddad, so we think of earth lodges, but they also lived in teepees at times, right?
They used teepees when they went hunting, when they went traveling, they would use teepees. But always earth lodges usually at the home base. But the only
So
ones
this
that
is like an abandoned farmhouse in North Dakota in a certain way.
that's the way it looks to me. And but again, it doesn't. But there's wood down there, wood ready to burn.
Yeah.
They got a little pile there, and so maybe it's used at certain times. I don't know, and maybe we never know. How maybe it's a kid's playhouse.
It does look small to me.
Yeah, it looks real small to me. Yep.
Might be a
And
playhouse.
it could be a playhouse. It could be a dog teepee, what I call a dog teepee. You know, and now before, obviously this is with horses, but dog teepee that's before horses, when the dogs would be the beast of burden, and they would have small teepees.
Oh, so they couldn't carry as much.
No, they couldn't carry as much. Even the travois would be small.
So
And
was it a custom in the Hidatsa for girls to have playhouses?
not like this. No,
No.
no. They would have real small ones. Their little villages were made out of cottonwood leaves.
Wow.
That they're made of, yeah. And the thing that interesting about this is what's that above the door? Are those decorations?
Looks like it's been kind of tied together with something.
Yeah, well, it's tied together obviously with choke cherry. Yeah, right there. But that looks also like a decoration in there. And see, with
Does.
our teepees, our women had to make the teepees, obviously. And what they would do is they would make 4 teepees, and they would have to give those 4 away before they kept one.
Really?
So you have to give them away. Yes, you make 4 teepees, give them to your brothers, whatever, and your 5th one is yours.
What's the theory behind that?
Ownership, not that we can't own anything, you know, and it goes back respect the other way too. That you respect your brothers and respect the males of your family by giving them a lodge.
Well, this one's seen a lot of life. You know, it's transitional because it's canvas, but or other cloth. But you look at all that smoke damage.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing, and it's also all the way down to the snow, all the way down in the snow, which is interesting. So it would have been used there. There would have been and I can't see it from here, but there would have been a liner in there also.
Yeah, you have to have let air in, right?
Yep, you betcha. You betcha.
Right now, oh wait, this one, yeah, that. So here's incense
Oh,
over the medicine.
let's go back to that teepee again. I'm gonna show you
Oh,
something.
sorry.
Okay. To me, that door is shut with a buffalo hide.
Yeah, there's something right here that's shutting it. It's like a gate or something.
That's a buffalo hide.
Yeah.
Looks like a buffalo hide to me. Yep.
Okay.
That's nice. Anyway.
So now we kind of get into the world of the sacred. So, you know, some people argue, both native people and non-natives, that it's one thing to take a picture of a teepee or, you know, somebody out on the plains, but to capture the sacred is a pretty problematic thing. What do you make of that?
Well, I got two avenues of thought. One of them, my purism says that we should never take pictures like this.
Right.
My purism says that it, pardon me, that it's a very very personal, and you don't take pictures of that. But my other side of me says, I'm really glad we did, because we get to see it. We get to see it, we get to analyze it, we get to see that I've never. You know, it's interesting that he's got his, I'm thinking that smudge that he's got in that pot, and that man has that pot, just like that man had that pot, the river. Okay, there's got to be some kind of connection between the male, and with him, you know, he's either getting ready to go into a sweat, I think, or just coming out of a sweat, because look at his hair. His hair's not braided. It doesn't have that. It's not fixed up. And all he's got on, the way it looks, is a breechcloth. And so he's either coming out of a sweat or, like I said, or getting ready to go in, because his hair doesn't look all that wet yet. But I think, you know, the thing that we can't say is that we look at these kind of pictures, we can't say, well, I bet he was singing this song and we sing the song. That's the stuff we cannot do.
You
And
cannot, because why? We don't know, or we shouldn't.
no, we shouldn't, because it's something that we respect to be his ceremony, his song. There's this, just like if I were to take my pipe out and pray, I wouldn't want anybody recording me. I wouldn't, I don't do that for the public. I don't do that for show. And that's what we're on the edge here, is that that's what I think some people are saying, well, he's setting us up for a show type of thing to make money, on these pictures. But at the same time, he could be doing that too. Hell, I don't know. But at the same time, it does show that it's inside of something, right? And
He's in a tent. This is indoors somewhere.
Indoor, there's no wind. Look at that smoke.
Yeah, that's amazing that he was able to get the tendril smoke.
Yeah. And it goes way up right there. It goes way up there. See?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So this is a pipe?
That looks like a no.
Is it a hatchet?
It looks like a hatchet to me. It looks like some kind of warfare thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know that. Look at that. That does look like a pipe right there.
Yeah, that looks like a pipe.
Yeah, so it could be
a combination.
Yeah, well, I would imagine in what he's doing, it would be a pipe. It would be a pipe.
He's a bundle carrier.
He's a bundle owner.
He's special status.
He's a bundle owner, right?
How do you get to be that?
It comes with you can either purchase a bundle, or it could get passed down to you. If your family had it, if your grandfather and your father had a particular bundle, for example, let's say horse bundles nowadays, or back in those days. And if you had a horse bundle, horse medicine, then you could pass it on to your son, or your son could purchase it from you. And when we purchased, it's the same thing. We start at this time. Even if you told stories, you had to give something. You always have to give something to get it. And the reason is because there's that personal ownership, which means that, if I came to you, Clay, and you were an old guy, if I came to you and I said, I really need to learn this ceremony, and I'll give you this, I'll give you whatever, buffalo robes or horses or whatever, because I gave you a gift, you have to tell me everything. You can't leave anything out, and you can't change it. You can't change it to fit your needs. You have to give me just the way you learned it. That's why we pay for it. So it doesn't put a monetary price on it, but it puts a traditional value on it.
Yeah. So of course Curtis paid, but
sure.
Is an outsider allowed to pay?
Nowadays they won't, and that's what's surprising back then. I would think they would back in those days, but I don't see it anymore. It won't happen anymore. Even back in those days, and I'm one of the ones that say they probably shouldn't have done that, but they did.
But you're also saying we're glad he did, because we get to see this.
Yes, because now we can look at it and analyze it. And once we learn more about different ceremonies, maybe we can even sit down one of these days with this picture with a whole group of elders and say, okay, let's talk about this. And it's one of the best things that we could do with this kind of stuff. And
that's why this is so valuable to me, Gerard, because this is the best possible way for me to try to understand Curtis's work. And
yes,
we're doing it, and I'll be able to make use of your wisdom. But imagine if you had a group of 10 young men who are kind of disconnected from their Hidatsa roots, who could be part of this and really learn.
Oh, it'd be fantastic. Even yeah, just to look at it and whet their appetite for history. That's what we need.
Yeah, and these pictures do that, right? I mean, you've had something to say about every single photograph. You betcha, and that does it. It rings a lot of bells. It really opens the guy up, I think. I just want to go to this one. I want to go along till 4 if you've got that time.
Sure.
Okay, and then I want to set up another one because I've got way more to ask. But this is the one I'm very interested in, because Curtis wrote about this and he said, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done this. But he came to there was this hut, or this cabin, and the bundle owner, the man responsible, was very reluctant, and Curtis gave him a lot of money, maybe $500, which is a fortune in 1910.
Right.
And he talked him into showing him these turtle drums, but when he wrote about it, Curtis said, I feel a little uneasy about this. On the other hand, as you just said, Gerard, we might not have this if it weren't for Curtis.
Right. Yeah, I think it, what you're doing is it's great. What you're doing is very respectful. If somebody else would take it and make fun of it or make a joke out of it, then we don't want that to happen, obviously. But stuff like this, I mean, this is extremely sacred. And I can't, extreme doesn't even put the emphasis on it what I want to. Because at one time we had 4 of these. During the time of creation, the creator made these and gave these to the people. And two of them went back into the river. Two of them took out back into the river, and they saved these 2 by tethering them to the banks, and they couldn't get away. And that's why and so that's why we have them. They go back to the time of creation, and I had the opportunity when I was a young man with my father. I think I was in high school back in those days. The turtle, one of these drums was owned by Mr. Benson. Edwin Benson, yeah, who in a traditional way, Edwin Benson is my son. I'm my grandson. I'm his grandfather. And so, but anyway, so I got invited to, my dad said, we got to come and he wants you to help move these turtles. And of course, I was in a Catholic boarding school at the time, and I was kind of raising hell, and I was thinking, man, I'm not sure if I'm worthy. Because if you're not worthy, if you messed up and you take this and try to move them, these turtles will not let you pick them up. They will get so damn heavy you can't get them. And this old man Benson, he was telling me, he said, yeah, a couple of years ago we had so-and-so, I'm not gonna say who it is, came over and he couldn't lift them. And when I first saw them, they were bundled with cloth, blankets, everything. And they were all by themselves downstairs in his basement, and we had to take them and move them to the house you're talking about. He had the same thing. He had a house and they lived in a house by themselves. Mm-hmm. And so we had to take him, and he prayed. And then when he prayed, he left me alone with them. And I won't say much about all that, but I will tell you this. When I sat in front of them as he took the blankets off. And I couldn't help but stare at it. I just couldn't. I mean, I was watching. And when he started getting towards these actual drums, you could feel the power. You could feel the presence of this thing. It was incredible, just incredible. And the first thing it made you want to do is cry. It just that emotion came out. I have no idea why. And I had to pick him up, and I took him around a building, his where they were at, his home. I walked around there 4 times, and I went to the new building, and he didn't come with me. He told me what to do, and then he left. And so I did it by myself. And I went inside that new building, and then the last thing we did, and this was to me, this is sad, because the last thing we had to do was we had to take cornballs and roll them into the river. And of course, with the Garrison Dam being that way, we had no river. We had no, because the main stream was 3 miles away, let's say, from his place at Twin Buttes, the main current. And so he made a little raft and put him on that and shoved them out there. Wow. And that was really sad. That was really sad. We didn't have the opportunity to roll them into the river anymore, except that damn lake, but anyway, that was the experience of these. They're exceptionally strong. They're Mandan. They're unbelievable, just unbelievable when you unfold them like this. I never took the drum and I never played them. I didn't hit on it. There's no way heck you can do that. So, but you were young and you weren't. You must have been something like suddenly there's a responsibility that you're taking on here. Well, I think my brothers and I and my sister, I think we all grew up with that responsibility. I think my age group, we all grew up with that because we still had grandparents that knew back in those days. and we're you know, the ones that my dad never moved into town when the Garrison Dam came in and moved everybody to the reservation. You know, he refused to go to a town, and so we got a little bitty ranch, and I think that's what helped us as far as learning. Sometimes when you go in town, you're too busy living, and so this way, so I had that respect already, and I knew you know what everything was all about, not in detail, obviously, but I knew enough to respect our ways, and I knew enough about our ways to understand them, both from the Mandan and the Hidatsa side, even though my mom pushed Hidatsa because we're matrilineal. And so what the language spoken in our house was Hidatsa, until my dad, when I would go with my dad to go to Twin Buttes and visit Benson, visit some other ones that still spoke Mandan, and they would speak Mandan all day long, and that was just fascinating. Just fascinating. And even with these songs, you know, the old man that, I'll tell you one thing, the old man that was behind me when we opened these up, he sang a Mandan song, and it was nothing like the songs we have today. Absolutely nothing. And he said there was even old words in there that he didn't even know, that didn't know the meaning of these old. So that's the old language.
So when we do this exhibit, I'm not going to show this photograph, but you know, some people believe that when you expose this to a camera or to a person who hasn't earned the right to see them, that you break the spell.
No, I don't believe that at all. I think there's no spell. I think what it does is if you disrespect it, you're going to get hurt. If you disrespect it, your family's going to, somebody in your family is going to get hurt or die. And that's one of the regulations that we know. And so that's what so there's really no, that spell comes from a outside Anglo term. And
no, but I mean, can it, but you're saying that spell may be the wrong term, but that nothing is lost by the exposure of these onto a piece of film.
Well, they say that, they say, and again, this is the film is not gonna steal the spirit of this.
Right.
It's just not going to, because that's too powerful for that. You know, and what is they say what it's gonna do though, it'll disrupt it, if you will, not steal it. And so that's what they're careful about.
But you are one of a small number of people who have ever seen these.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many do you think have seen them?
Well, I think quite a few up until about maybe 1950s, you know, and when our actually up until this point when Curtis was there, probably because we started getting all these outlawed and they went into hiding. They would hide these from the government because the government missionaries would come around. They would take our stuff and destroy it, you know, and that's what we didn't want to happen, because they were trying to teach us the Christian way of life, and leave these what the hell would they call them? Probably savagery is the term they would use probably on this kind of stuff, and they would try to destroy it.
When I first saw these, Gerard, this photograph, I thought, well, maybe he shouldn't have done this, but I'm glad that he did, because they've probably been lost. But you're saying they weren't lost. No,
they weren't lost. There's a lot of things that were, you know, the only way they were lost is if the owner would die and he didn't give the ownership to somebody else, like in the smallpox. So we were very lucky that these weren't lost in the smallpoxes.
Because Edwin passed this on before he died.
Yes.
All right, I want to go just to this back here now. This is another incredible photograph of Lean Wolf.
Yeah, he's definitely Lean Wolf.
What do you make of it? What's all this on his head?
Well, first thing when I see Lean Wolf is I see power.
Yeah,
I see power. I'm not, you know, and it radiates power. He did a whole lot of things. You can see that with his headdress, with the cut feathers and with everything. I mean, this guy was incredible as far as a warrior goes, and as far as leader of a societies, and just being who. I mean, look at his face. His face tells you. I mean, this is who we are and who we were. His face. and it's enriching, it's hard, it's tough, it's soft, if you will, you know. And the thing that I feel bad about him is the way he's got his eyes looking down. But again, that might be
He's not going to look in the camera, is he?
not gonna look in the camera. Hell no, not with all that stuff on him. And he's got a lot of medicines on him, which is really interesting because he allowed Curtis to film that. But again, I think back in those days, I really want to say that they didn't mistrust it. They didn't mistrust it. They still trusted, and Curtis had enough exposure, I think, to these folks that they trusted him through. Could have been through anybody that he used for interpreter.
Yeah. Plus, he would. I don't know how much he did in North Dakota, but he would go to a place like in Arizona and spend 3 months before he took his first photograph, and he'd haul wood, and he would help out, and he would lug stuff, and he would.
Yep. He knew how to get along with Indians.
Yeah, he had to learn. You have to. I mean, there's a whole thing, isn't there, that not every person who's curious gets to hear it.
Right. And I would imagine the way Curtis dealt with this is that he wasn't a typical anthropologist, right? The typical anthropologist will get in your face and ask you a bunch of questions, even to these old guys like this. Whereas, and not go about it the way Curtis did. And I think the way that Bodmer did, or even Catlin to a certain extent. And that was, like you just said, get to know the people, eat with them, share their food, haul the water for the grandma once in a while, you know, get hurt, cry, laugh, prove to them that you're a nukhpaga, you're a human just like they are.
Say that again. Nukhpaga.
Nukhpaga is our people. They prove them they're our people, and so once you do that, once you gain the trust, especially of, I think, on the female side, not approaching them, not talking to them directly, but helping them, you know, because you never want to approach the female directly, then you disrespect. But I think he did, like you said, he did a lot of things to gain their trust. And once he gained their trust, and of course, back in those days, you know, we all understand that we were poor back in those days, money-wise, financially. And so anything they could get, they would get. You know, and I don't blame them for this. I really don't. I mean, I don't blame them for putting their stuff on. And if I can get $5 from Curtis, that's a lot of money, or 10, or whatever he gave them.
Yeah, absolutely. It could mean the difference between a good year and a bad year.
Sure. And I think the way they looked at it is that, you know, they weren't doing any kind of ceremonies with wearing this. He wasn't actually involved in the ceremony. He just had this on, showing him, type of thing.
So what am I looking at here? What's this?
Well, you got that's ermine. That's
long ermine skins.
Yep, long ermine skins, and they're cut.
What's this?
That looks like the drum handle.
Yeah.
Or a drum. That's the end of a drum, so you can hit it.
And you've got feathers and some kind of cloth here.
That's trade cloth there. Trade cloth represents the trading, and they look on top of that. There should be a mirror on top of that. Right there. Someplace in there should be a mirror.
Why?
We prided ourselves on our looks. we prided ourselves on, because again, remember, look at some of the early journalism. We were always dressed up in the villages. Try to look nice for the ladies, right? And so we had a great pride in who and how we looked. And even this old guy had that pride. You can see it. And
how old do you think he is? How old do you think he is?
I'm gonna say he's at that day and age, I'm gonna say he's around 80.
That's an old man.
Which is very old for that day and age, but I think that's what he is.
So if this is 1910 and he's 70 or 80 years old,
yeah,
he's around with Red Cloud. He's around with, you know, wow.
Oh yeah, oh definitely. Yeah, you betcha. He probably stole Red Cloud's horse.
That's great. All right, this is a whole different look.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't look as quite like the other ones we've been looking at.
No, this one here has got more of a modern gig to it, if you will. Look at his vest.
Yeah.
It looks like he's got a white vest on, a buckskin vest maybe, but it's part of that shirt.
Pieces of metal, I think, down like
Yeah,
down here.
those are bells.
Yeah,
Those are bells. He must be the seven. And the bow is definitely Hadadza. That's the Mandan bow. That's definitely a Northern Plains bow.
it's definitely Northern Plains.
Yeah.
And he too has this elaborate headgear.
Yep. And that's a society gear. I'm thinking that's Fox Society is what I'm thinking. I could be wrong. But it looks like a Fox Society to me with that headgear. And then his face portrays that he is invincible.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, he's saying, okay, come on, try it, man. That's what he's saying there, you know.
You want some of this?
Yeah, you want some of this? Come take it. You know?
And what's this?
That's those are the decorations.
Looks like ermine again or something, but
Oh no, that's decorations in the beadwork or in the quillwork. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's part of that whole. That's part of the beadwork. It comes down the sleeve too. See that?
Beautiful white vest.
Oh, it's a great white vest. Yeah, but it's part of that. The which is unusual because it looks like they took a idea or the style of a buckskin shirt and made a vest out of it. Is the way it
Yep.
looks to me, which is interesting. I've never seen that before.
I know it says long something dog.
Long time dog.
Long time dog. Do you know that family?
No, I don't. But again, our names have changed.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, if you look at some of the old treaties, you know, we had names like, I give an example. One of them was Stinkface. That was his name, Stinkface. And but again, they mischaracterized it. You know, his name actually.
Go ahead.
What happened? Okay, his name actually did not mean stink face. They translated it to when you smell something, how your face changes, right? You go like this, or it stinks. But the government couldn't write that down, so they had to just put stink face. And so that's how our names changed. Long time dog, you know, in Hiradza, I can't say that. Some Meshuggah is dog. Awagog, you know, that's looking. I have to think about that a little bit. But I would imagine that they changed that later on, I'm sure.
I want to move forward here to a couple that I don't want us not to get. Well, first of all, my very favorite of all the photographs.
Oh, God, yes.
Tell me about this one.
Okay, eagle trapping. Eagle trapping, this guy has the right to kill the eagle, which you see. If he didn't have the right to kill an eagle, he would have that eagle holding up with the head up in the air and taking it back to his eagle lodge. The trapping of eagles came to us from the black bears. They're the ones that taught us how to trap eagles, how to kill eagles. And the ones that
actual bears taught you.
Right, bears taught us.
Okay.
And it was a little boy that came out of he was at Knife River during the time of creation when we were still getting organized, and either Hart or the Hart River or Knife River area. And he was the kind of guy that didn't like to go out any place, and he would try to. I'm trying to get this straight here. He was a little boy that went out and he wouldn't go with his buddies to go hunting or go warfare or whatever. But what he was trying to do is he would dress up nice and stand on earth lodges and try to get the women. Well, one day they got his dad finally got mad and said, "You got to go on the warpath. You got to go." And so he went. He was the leader. His dad was the leader. So the leader went to a young group that were going to go out on the warpath, and they said, "You take my son," and they had no choice. And so he went with them, but because he was out of shape, they kept leaving him behind. And on the fourth day, when he woke up late, there was nobody around. And this was someplace in the Badlands of North Dakota.
Mm.
And so he had no idea where he was lost. And he finally smelled smoke. And when he smelled smoke, he knew there was somebody around, obviously. He didn't know if it was the enemy. He didn't know if it was friendly. He didn't know if it was his buddies that left him. And so he snuck up on his ridge and looked down, and when he looked down in real thick thickets, he seen a lodge, almost like that one we just saw, that little teepee, but he seen a lodge made out of bark. And it was very small, and he noticed there was activity inside. A little bear came out, looked at him, went back inside, and he can hear a voice to the inside. That little bear said that there's a man out there. And a voice inside, his older voice, said, "That's your brother, bring him in." And so when he went, so the little bear came out, motioned him to come over there, and he went down there, took him in that lodge, and he looked around the lodge, and there was eagle wings hanging up all around the lodge, and there was old bears sitting there. They never did say if they were grizzly or black bear or what, but they were just old bears sitting there, and they were eating this soup. And the first thing we do to people when they come visit us is feed them. You know, the non-Indians will meet you on the porch and give you a cup of coffee. We bring them in and feed them. And so they brought him in, and they didn't say a thing. They just fed him. And after they got through feeding them, then the old bear started talking to this guy, and he explained to him why he brought him there, to teach him how to trap eagles. And I'm leaving about 2 hours out here because it's a long story that's very, very fascinating. But in the long run, they showed him how to trap the eagles. They showed him how to dig the pits. They showed him even what to put inside the pits with them when they're trapping eagles, which was nothing more than a round headstone. You put that round headstone when you're inside this pit against your head. That way, if you doze off, the stone will wake you up. It'll drop on your shoulders and wake you up because it gets hot in there. And if you have the right to trap an eagle, and if you have the right to kill the eagle, then you kill the eagle. The way the black bears kill the eagle, they would take the eagle to the front of that lodge door and throw it very hard, aggressively to the back of the lodge, and that's how the eagle died. And then they would eat that. And so if this guy looks like he has the right to kill, which he did, and just him and his family will have the right to eat that eagle. And then they use the feathers. If they didn't have the right to kill the eagle, they would be alive. They would take it down to their lodge, keep it for 4 days, feed it, then put a prayer stick on the leg. And that prayer stick would not only be prayers for that eagle they let go, but it would be ask the eagle to bring his family, bring your brothers, so they have more eagles. And so in the long run, that's what this is. But it's something to kill. I mean, imagine, Clay, sitting in this little pit, camouflage. The eagle comes down, lands, and walks up to you, and you grab the damn eagle and pull it inside with you. Okay, what they did have, though, is they had black medicine that you get from the prairies. It's a root. And they would chew that black medicine when they first start seeing the eagle fly around them. They would chew it and would come down for the bait, and the bait was usually a freshly killed brisket of a deer or a rabbit. As soon as the eagle grabs it, you grab that, stick it inside with you, and then you blow on that eagle with that black root. And that black root will paralyze the eagle. That's why he never got hurt.
What's the root?
It's all I can say is black root.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this guy, you said if he didn't have permission, it would be held in a different way?
Yeah, he would be held. It would be held with honor, which means that and imagine when even the dead ones like this, as soon as he prays, and I'm sure he's sitting there praying now, when he gets through that, when he takes it back down to his lodge, he'll have the head up in the air. He won't have it upside down like you're butchering chickens. He'll have the head up in the air, and and they say various songs and prayers as they go down to their lodge. Their lodge is about a mile away, if not a mile and a half away, and real thickets. And so he would do that. But this is amazing. I love this damn picture. Just love it.
So he's got leggings on.
Yeah, he's got leggings on because of where he's walking. I'm sure there's a lot of cactus and everything else around there. You know, there's cactus, there's snakes, and everything else around that country. But they're pretty much anklets, though. See that?
Yeah.
They're not leggings, they're anklets. And that's just the style of that moccasin.
Just to protect his ankles.
Yeah, protect his ankles as he's walking.
And so, I mean, look at the pride. I mean, this is a perfectly posed photograph.
Yep. Yep. And to me, if you look at him, I think he's praying because to me, it looks like his eyes are closed.
Yeah, and he has see what he has? He has his arm over his heart.
Yep.
Isn't that his hand right over his heart?
That's his hand right there, but he's holding something. He's
Wonder
holding
what
something.
it is.
I don't know. It's that square thing right there he's holding. I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah.
Right there, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
not sure what it is.
so what's the closest you've ever been to a live eagle?
Oh, 2 feet.
That must be terrifying.
Oh, you know what, Clay? I seen one the other day. We live in a place, my nearest neighbor is 8 miles away from me.
Huh.
And so we have a tremendous amount of wildlife around us. And I seen 2 eagles, and I've seen a lot of eagles in my day. I worked up in Alaska at the oil spill. There was a tremendous amount of eagles along the coast there. And I seen some big eagles. The other day, I seen 2 eagles flying above one of my hills here that I swore those things were like thunderbirds. They were so big. And we have stories and we have things about thunderbirds even today that come around. And so to grab one of these things, it would be incredible. Those things move so fast. The reason I say I had one about 2 feet from me, it was I went outside and it was trying to get my chickens, and it flew down by me, didn't see me, I don't think. And it flew and it was so quick. And then by the time it reached out for my chicken, I hollered at it. Well, I kind of screamed actually. And that thing went straight up in the air. It just, you can feel the power in those damn things. And to come down like this, to come down and to grab it and put it into a pit with you. I mean, that you talk, I don't know, you talk about a thrill, or you talk about being scared, or you talk about whatever, it would all be bundled into one. But again, that blackwood will save you.
But it's dangerous business.
Oh, big time. If you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have the right ceremony or whatever, you're going to get hurt. That damn thing will take your arm off, man.
Or pluck your eye out.
Oh, you betcha. Yep.
So, but I didn't know that they were eaten. Why were they eaten?
Just because of the black bears. That's what the black bears did. That's how they ate some of their food, is they would eat the eagles. And so they told this young man that if they have the right, and you get the right by different ways, by fasting, by praying, by ceremonies, so forth, you get the right to actually kill the eagle. And sometimes you get the right in a dream. You may have a dream of killing an eagle, and that's what you'll do.
So Gerard, you can say what you want about Edward Curtis, but it's worth having him do this for this photo alone.
Oh, no question. Like I said, I got mixed feelings on it, but the overall feelings I have is that this is positive. I'm glad he wasn't making fun of them. He was doing it in a very dignified manner. He was saving a piece of our culture through his photos. And that I want to tell him thank you.
And so where some historic eagle pits were. I'd love to know where this rock was.
Yeah. Well, there's some right above Knife River. There's some by Bismarck. We have some in the Badlands. And I think there's some around here. I just haven't checked all that much yet. I haven't walked around that much yet. But there's a lot of them. And Alfred Bowers, when Bowers was there, he took me up to one that Wolf Chief took him up to. And I actually got a picture of I think myself, I went and sat in it. And it's right above Knife River, and it was about 4 feet deep at the time. It was filling up pretty fast. But again, it's just amazing to sit in those things and try to imagine what it was like.
Is this still done?
No. I don't think anybody has the right to catch eagles anymore. That's one thing I've been trying ever since I heard about this as a kid. I've been trying to find somebody to teach me that. And it was really interesting because I was approaching it wrong. I went to a gentleman that named me. My Indian name is Zetsashidish. My Hadadza name. That means yellow wolf. And the one that named me was Old Man Black Bear from Mandarin named me. And I finally went to him, and he was really, really old at the time. And I started asking about this. I said, I really want to learn how to trap eagles, and I want to learn how to sing the songs. I want to learn the ceremony, that kind of stuff. I said, but who do I go to? I asked him. And he said, there's nobody anymore that can teach you, he said. So you got to learn the same way they learned in the first place. That's fasting. And hopefully the bears will come to you. Well, I never did it. I never fasted like this. I couldn't. You know, it takes something special. And so I never did learn, but I would love to, but nobody has the right anymore to do this.
It's illegal, of course, for most people.
Yeah, it's illegal for Indians too to have eagle feathers. And
Is that right?
Unless you got a permit.
And what is this? One last question.
That looks like part of his belt. That looks
Yeah.
like part of his belt that maybe he used that he's going to use to tie the legs together.
So when you would catch this eagle, you might bring it back alive.
Yeah, you would, if you don't have the right to kill it, you definitely bring it back alive. And that way, the reason you bring it back alive is to not only take some feathers from it, but also send the prayers back with it, so it'll bring more eagles to you. That's why you don't kill them.
So I want to go another 12 minutes if you've got the time. But if I have Beth contact you, can we do another one of these?
Sure, that'd be fun. You betcha.
It's just so great. I mean, this is an incredible experience for me. Okay, here's a village, abandoned Hidatsa village.
Yeah, I've looked at this before, and I've been trying to think, where in the heck is that?
Where is that?
It's got to be down by the Heart River, I think. It's got to
Down
be
here and near Bismarck.
In Bismarck, yeah. It's got to be. Because there's nothing like this by the Knife River. The landscape looks like those hills by Mandan and by Bismarck, or Mandan, south of Mandan, by Mary College area on the other side. That, to me, that looks like, but I can't, because we had villages, many villages around there.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah. But I'm not sure where those villages are. Are they on the bottom?
It must be down to the bottom, because Hidatsa didn't put villages on hills, did they?
Well, just for the no, not in real high hills, but Knife River's on a hill. It's on a higher plateau a little bit, rather than you look at those between those and winter villages. Winter villages were way down in the trees.
Let's go just a couple quick more before we lose you. This is the feathers, by the way, that we're covering the sacred turtle.
Right.
This is a great photograph of, this is you'd say Upsalika.
Upsalika, yeah.
Yeah, this is a wonderful winter photograph.
Oh, definitely. With the modern saddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this, you can see, like, he's not just taking snapshots here. This is a beautifully composed photograph.
Yeah. 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 This is one, and you can see that's got it. It's even an Indian pony because it's small.
Yeah.
It's an Indian pony.
Here's Rabbit Head.
Rabbit Head, yeah. They're from Partial.
You know that name?
Oh yeah, I went to school with a Rabbit Head. Hell of a basketball player.
Look at this. Look at this headgear.
Oh God, yeah. Well, you got your roach. That's a roach he's got on his head with porcupine hair. And it goes back, looks like he's got in the back, looks like rooster.
Like a peacock?
No. What you hunt? Jesus, Clay, I just had a mind blank. The roosters that people hunt all the time in North Dakota.
Turkey.
No.
Grouse.
Huh?
Grouse.
The big one.
I don't know.
Why could I think of that? You see them running on the road all the time, eating stuff. And pheasants. There we go. Pheasant.
Oh, pheasants. Okay.
There we go. Everything but pheasant. But that looks like a pheasant back there. But unless it's a camera trick, I don't know. Or a
Not
camera.
sure. And what's this thing? This bone?
That's a shell from the West Coast. That's a shell.
He's a proud man.
Oh, look at him. Yep, you betcha. The same kind of earrings. And he's got definitely a Hidatsa, the same kind of design on his shirt. See that? Those four or three.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. And then he's got the necklace too, the chest plate, if you will. And then
I'd say
got-
he's in his 40s somewhere,
I would say, yeah, I would say middle 40s. That's what I would say.
but he
Again,
looks like a really, really, really strong and confident man.
oh, you can tell the way his face is. You can tell his the worry things in his eyes. You know, again, no black hair. I mean, no white hair. I'm sorry.
So Gerard, if you think about this guy, you know, so this is 1908 or 9. He's, you know, think about his life for a moment.
Yeah.
There aren't any jobs. There aren't any buffalo. They're being, you know, forced to abandon different rites and ceremonies.
Right.
It's not even clear what he's eating. You know, how he puts bread on the table.
Yeah.
So this is how he sees himself. This is who he really is. And the white government has turned him into a pauper and
Right.
you know, I mean, it's just shocking to think of this is who he really is. And then
Yeah.
think of what his daily life was like in this year.
Oh yeah, definitely. And this is the time period where they're getting annuities from the government, which is that's what gave us all sugar diabetes, by the way.
Cast off food, high processed food.
Oh, it's terrible, sugary, you know, and starchy. And this is the time period actually when, if you look at the old Fort Berthold, which I've been reading about lately, the old Fort Berthold, you know, just like what started the Minnesota massacre. They were hungry. They were starving. What the hell the guys do say? Just like at the old Fort Berthold, they came to him and they wanted some grain. And the guy sent them off to where they spilled the grain on the ground and said, "You hungry? Go eat that."
Jesus.
If they had a bunch of damn food in the warehouses that they weren't going to give to the Indians until the big boy came, the big boss came, so he could do it officially. Well, hell, most of those damn things got stolen anyway and got sold. And so, yeah, he was having a heck of a time. And again, I think, you know, I think they lived on white man's cows once in a while, you know, under the cover of darkness. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how I learned how to butcher at night, but I did. You know, FHA cows, man. And you know, but again, but you can tell he's still the man. He's still a man responsible for a lot of things. And that's what that says to me.
Well, one of the things I like about Curtis is he allowed this man to be a man.
Yes. 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 And I wonder how many minutes he got himself together before Curtis snapped the picture.
Hours, right?
Yeah, had to been.
This is hard work putting that together.
Yeah. And it looks like if this was a colored picture, I'm willing to bet he's got ochre on himself.
Yep.
For the sun.
Yeah, that's an amazing
Almost a shame,
photograph.
yeah.
I want to go to a couple more here. Like, so here's this amazing
two whistles.
Apsalica. I mean, look at that.
Apsalica. Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah.
What's that bird?
When they put that's
it's a hawk, right?
Some kind of hawk. Yeah, some kind of hawk. I'm not sure what kind. But yeah, this guy's medicine anyway. And you can see that white he has on him is the rocks they get that makes that white comes from the Prior Mountains.
The Prior Mountains?
Yeah, that's where they get that rock. And then you take that rock and the old guys that gave me the medicines in Crow when I was working there gave me those. And they take it, then you mix it with a little bit of buffalo grease, and that's what keeps it on your face. And that's a medicine. Strong war medicine.
This is an amazing image. This guy had power.
Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes. And he knew it too.
And he was willing to, this is, again, it feels like we're kind of intruding on the sacred here, but he's willing to put this, you don't just wear this to the grocery store. This is an incredible headdress.
Yeah. And I think what they're doing also is they're showing their power, you know, and Apsalica likes to show themselves off once in a while. And that's as far as I'm going to go with that one. I'll get myself in trouble otherwise. But that's what he's doing. I think he's proud of who he is. He's proud of his medicine because his medicine is strong. It doesn't back down for anything, including a camera.
So let's do one more.
Ooh, I like that one too.
Look at this photograph on the banks of the Missouri. This is an incredible photograph.
Oh, every time I see this, I I tend to think of Mahiriwia, Buffalo Bird Woman. And what she says, even if she didn't say it, it still sounds pretty poetic as far as coming to the river and looking, and this one out, when this was changing, come to the river, and in her mind, she could see the earth lodges, and she could hear the children, and she could hear the animals. And that's what this is. This guy's up there reminiscing, I think, praying and reminiscing. And to me, this picture is extremely sad. Extremely sad. Looking out over something that used to be and not anymore.
But dignity.
Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes. Guys, they're not on one knee, they're not bending down, it's pride.
Not sitting in a lounge chair
No.
here.
No, drinking a cold one. No.
But I mean, Curtis, think of this, Curtis, it took a certain kind of human being to see the beauty of this image.
Oh, he had to. He had to. And he just didn't take a picture of him. He took a picture of life itself, as far as the river and the bank and the soils, and even you can still see the shadows of the different clays and that type of thing in there.
The earth, the earth is a huge presence here.
Oh, big time. And look how small that man is compared to the universe.
But he has it right?
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. I mean, there's, I remember when I think about this, I think about the things I say about Lewis and Clark. If we could ever bring him back, stand him on a hill above Bismarck, let's say, and oh, excuse me, bring Lewis and Clark back with York, with the Indians that he met there as well. That's like this guy, and looking it over today, what would he think? What would he think? I would, Lewis and Clark, would they be proud? Would they be say, "Oh, I'm glad America's got, God, look what we did"? Or would they look at all those damn oil wells and oil stuff and say, "What the hell did we do?"
No, I agree with you. You think, if you think of like Keystone, South Dakota, and you think, really, we took the Black Hills from the Lakota for this?
Exactly.
For this?
And Mount Rushmore, I hate to say that, but yeah.
Yeah, and or you think, so if you look down on Bismarck, once the home of between 13 and 20 villages,
yeah.
And now what? Golf courses and Costco.
Yeah, you got that, and you got those big oil rigs up there, that refinery. You got noise, you got pollution, and you got the dam, and these guys would be heartbroken. They would be heartbroken to come back to that.
Yeah, well, that when the dam was going in, the Mandan Hidatsa offered to swap lands to make it to, and the white people wouldn't even listen.
Yeah, and then they were offered they were offered Knife River back.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't do it because of smallpox.
They had a memory.
That's why they wouldn't go back to them. I mean, the oral history is incredible. Just to give you an example, when I first worked at Knife River, I went back home one of the first times that I got through with working. And I was met by some of these old people, the Mrs. Black Bear, and some other ones that came to my house. And the first thing they did is they smudged me and they cried.
They cried.
And after they cried, they gave me hell. And the reason they gave me hell is they said, "Don't you ever pick anything up when you're working there. Don't you ever grab anything, because if you do, you're going to bring smallpox back to us." Really? This was in 1979 or 77, man, when they said this. So to me, that's just the power of oral history. That's the power of pictures like Curtis did. That's what gives us that knowledge.
And when you have white people saying to like the Mandan Hidatsa, "Get over it," you think,
yeah,
man, you don't understand anything if you say
not at all.
Get over it.
Not at all. And that's why I'm really glad that you're doing this kind of stuff, because it will remind people, it would bring people up to educate them, if you will.
So I've got to go for this other meeting. Can I have Beth set up a second one of these?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yep,
let's do at least one more, because this is like totally valuable. This might help you with your book too. So who knows?
Sure. Never know. All right. That sounds good.
Bye for now. I love you, my friend.